Good Wednesday morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone join us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show. Minus Dimitri still, plus Adam McBride all the way from Costa Rica, but actually all the way from Bradenton, Florida. Apologize about that. First thing we'll start is disclaimer. Just take a quick read. Neither Adam, myself, anyone at Market Chameleon or Market Chameleon itself are not registered investment advisors. So take everything for informational purposes only, and seek out professional registered rep information on your accounts if need be. With that, take one more look. We'll stop the share. Good morning, my brother. How are you doing today?
Let's get it, man. You hear about this news on NVIDIA, man?
What's that?
They're not allowed to sell to China. They need special permission to sell their chips to China. That AI stuff, man.
From the Fed, that came down from the Fed today?
Biden administration. Well, considering new restrictions, I guess is what it is. Considering, but that as early as next month, that those chips might be stopped.
Because you imagine the biggest. Well, let's get into that before we get started. This is Adam's last day, so everyone give him a wave goodbye. He's traveling tomorrow morning. Then we should have D back by the end of the week. Fingers crossed, everything works on the trip back. But thank you for the Chameleons for joining us the last 2 weeks. We've had fill-ins and made it worked out. Only missed a couple days, which has been great. Let's take a look and see what's going on in maybe the pre-market. Maybe NVIDIA shows up. That came across your ticker. Where'd you see that this morning?
Came across my ticker. Well, it's my VC, one of my VC emails I got.
One of your VC emails? Getting venture capitalists are emailing you?
Of course, man. Bro, you got to be connected, right? That's the whole thing. Your network is your net worth. Isn't that right? Well, didn't you teach me that a long time ago?
Yeah, nothing showing up.
Nothing happening.
Actually, there you go. Down 3%.
There you go. That's an overreaction, but that's the way it goes.
I mean, look at the stock.
Yeah, it's been a rocket ship, right?
I mean, it's been a straight rocket ship with this AI.
It's amazing how it's so hard to see these things, even while they're happening, even in slow motion. We all saw the ChatGPT blow up that week, and smart money got in early, and here we are. Yeah, it's
I mean, the stock's double. I mean, you got to wonder how much of the business comes from China. I mean, I was scrolling through this morning on the alerts, and I'm pretty sure it was Nike popped up here, upcoming earnings. Now, I mentioned earnings the other day that they don't start, and part of it is the promotion, right? Part of it is CNBC starts talking about earnings, and for whatever reason, the earnings start with the banks. That's when they start referring to the start of the earnings season. But earnings are always going on, and this is a nice new feature. This wasn't around when you and I were doing the show, but this is the landing page now. We've adjusted this landing page quite a few times to try to see what works best. But anyways, clicking on Nike. Again, the thing I was thinking about with Nike, and you mentioned NVIDIA, is how much of Nike's business comes from China, do you think? I mean, we were talking
very
about
little, man. Yeah.
You don't think they're so? I mean, the NBA is so entrenched in China. They love basketball. You don't think any of their sales?
No, I think some of their sales, sure, for the top earners in China. But how many people in China are buying $125, $150 shoes? I'd say not many. Top earners, of course, but this is an American product. This is something that Americans want. We drive this market. I mean, what do you think?
So
10%.
In your opinion, Nike is driven by U.S. sales.
Oh my God.
Sales to Europe, China.
Yep. I tell you, Nike actually, for those who don't know about Web3 and the idea of NFTs and fashion brands and stuff, Nike's actually been pretty much the leader, done one of the best jobs in the Web3 space. Not made a whole lot of money with it, but has positioned itself nicely to take advantage of digital items going forward. So if you think about, you get a digital item when you buy a pair of shoes, and those can trade together as kind of digital twins, they'll call them. And so these collectible shoes, which you're never going to wear, they're basically going to sit on your shelf as like a piece of art almost.
Wait. What shelf do they sit on? Something in the metaverse or?
No, I'm talking physical shoes that people will display. This is common, I know, in shoe culture, to either have rooms full of shoes or, actually have them displayed within your house. This is a thing, believe it or not, for street culture and street brands. Yeah, I know you don't know, but I know your son loves himself some shoes, right?
He does like shoes. I mean, we're not chasing new releases or anything, but he does love the shoes. Yeah.
But there are people who do chase those new releases, do chase the ultra rares, do chase rares. And the idea right now is that the provenance that you have to create for the shoes is basically by the seller. And so right now you'll have, I don't know, not Sotheby's, but an auction house will auction a pair of, Michael Jordan original 82, version 1 shoes, right? And they'll go for $200,000. But the provenance is all created through a certificate you get from them. In the future, what's going to happen is it's already happening. Nike's already doing it, where they're giving you a digital certificate. It's an NFT, and that digital certificate, basically lives with the shoe.
How many of those digital certificates get just lost
to the wind?
Do they? Do they sit on Nike's blockchain? What have they created their own blockchain that this is built on top?
They're generally using Ethereum as their blockchain of choice, or Polygon. Depends on the number of releases. If it's hundreds or thousands, they'll sometimes use Polygon because it's less expensive. But the whole point is that Nike's leaning into this. And so, as a kind of leader, again, they're still leading. And Nike's doing a really nice job in the kind of this digital future. Nike's doing a nice job.
I'm gonna test you right now, because the Chameleon community is so sharp. We've had numbers, so we know the numbers out of North America, the percent of Nike sales, and this is the sales. And the percent out of China, and someone's using Bard, probably ChatGPT. Someone may have FactSet. Someone may be deeper in the Chameleon than I am. That could be Rob. But what percent of sales? All right, we'll do it this way. Is it above 50% or below 50% of sales are done in North America? By North America, I'm assuming it's Canada.
That's Canada and Mexico.
Yes, and the U.S.
For Nike.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. My gut says like 48%. But
wow, you're pretty close. You're saying below. You got that right. You didn't get the number right. Rob says 41%. Now, what percent? I've got 2 chameleons who brought in the percentage that China adds to their sales. You want to guess?
It's funny. My gut says 13%, but that's probably way too high.
No, it's not way too low. It's low. You're what'd you say? 12%? 13. You're 4 percentage points off. It's 17%.
Okay.
So pretty.
That's significant. That's gotta get.
And I mean, listen, I'm looking at it differently since our discussion over the last 2 days about the fallen population. But forever, and I say forever, for the last 15 years, every company who's going into China says they want to start selling to the population's so large, right?
Yeah.
But it's a large population that's declining. And if you build out an entire infrastructure to try to grab that population, it's like, forever when you read about marketers and who they want to target, it's the young population, right?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
It's especially
not like with shoes. Especially with shoes. These are not, shoes are a 13 to 33 market. Right. This is not you or I. I mean, I have a pair of Jordans.
You know what I need for marketing to see what market it grabs me in marketing.
What? Comfort.
SALE. Sale. I just have to see the sale tip or price reduce. That's the marketing that grabs me.
I hear you, man.
We're going through just a sidebar. Not that that's mostly what we haven't done the last couple of days, but I was going through the supermarket with one of my kids the other day, and I grabbed it was ketchup, I think, and she's like, Dad, why do you always have to buy?
Why do you have to buy this garbage brand?
The
Dad?
cheapest
Damn.
brand? Why can't we? Heinz is right above that for twice as much. Can't you buy that? And I'm like, no, we're going with the signature brand. Do you know any difference? She's like, no, it tastes the same. I'm like, are you embarrassed when your friends come over? And she's like, yes.
Yes.
All right.
Good Dad always buys the good value brands. Oh God, dude.
We try to keep a few shekels in the.
It's funny, and that's why you'll get to retire, and I'll work, to the day I die. But I'm not down.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to be working to the day I die too. Even saving. Anyways, I did walk through the Nike, and there are quite a few different earning strategies that pop up. I don't know if this was around when you were here, but it goes through like this one, 5 of the last 7 earnings, a calendar, put spread, sell the near, buy the far. You can dig right down into the details to show you. So there are lots of things going on in Nike if anyone has any interest going into earnings tomorrow. And it's
interesting. I mean, you wonder, with the economic situations, is your gut would say, well, people are going to cut back on this, right? People are going to $150 sneakers. But sometimes the opposite happens. Value item that consumers will still purchase, while they won't purchase, something in the $1,000 range, thousands of dollars. They still will treat themselves with this sort of stuff. So it's interesting. You got to be careful with these type of earnings, because sometimes they'll sneak up on you. You think it's a down market, and yet these kind of low cost consumables will still do well. So be careful there.
Yeah, actually, we got a questions popped up, and Rob actually asked 2 questions about you. So for those who don't know, because people fly in and out, Rob was maybe here late when you first came on the first day. Will you give people some background on what you do? And he also asked yesterday, how long have you lived in Costa Rica?
I've been in Costa Rica almost over 22 years. I moved there in 2000, believe it or not. So it's a long time. Basically what I do now, I mean, at the core, I guess I'm a communicator and marketer. I'm also a strategist. So the team I work with now, it's called Emblem. And what we do is we facilitate cross-blockchain trading of digital assets, which won't make sense to most of you. But what we actually, the way we got our kind of start in the business was basically with these, what we call historical NFTs. So older NFTs before CryptoPunks and before anybody knew what an NFT was. For people to trade those, they're on other chains like Bitcoin or Namecoin, or these ones you've never heard of. So how do people actually get liquidity for those items? And our service basically allows you to lock that item within another NFT and trade it on Ethereum. And so we've been very successful doing that. It's a Web3 future that most of you will not understand, but for us, what it is, it's facilitating trading of assets across all blockchains. And we're in very, very early days, not even in the first inning. The pitch is still warming up, but we're super excited about what we're doing.
Well, there you go. And actually, one of the chameleons did know exactly what you're doing. Gene says NFTs is what Adam does. So.
NFTs is what I do. That's the high level. That's I was giving you the elevator pitch, but yeah, at the high level, I do NFTs. But it's much more than NFTs. NFTs are like the first step, the first one that makes sense. The first thing where you're like, oh, it's monkeys on the blockchain. I get it. But it's more than that. It's literally everything. NFTs can be and can represent anything. And kind of Nike's first step with, its digital twin is this first idea of like, there's this great story of one of my friends on Twitter. He went to buy a Warhol, a Campbell soup can from a gallery in New York, after he finally had a success, and it was going to be, it's expensive. It was, $300,000 or whatever. And he's like,
what decade was this?
This was several decades ago. And
so we're talking late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, this is like early 90s. And so he's paying, $250,000 or more for a Warhol, and he's in the gallery, and they're,
now, did he do this to impress a girl, or did he really?
No, he loved the art, man. loved the art. And he was a successful Wall Street guy, and he had some funds, and he was like, well, I want to buy a Warhol. How much is a Warhol? And this was years he was thinking about. He finally had the funds to do it. He goes, he's in the gallery. They're finalizing the thing. He's in this posh office, sipping his cappuccino. And the guy prints up his certificate of authenticity, literally on the printer, prints it up, puts the stamp on it, signs it. And he's like, well, how do I know that that's like legit? And he's like, and the gallery owner was like, well, it's from us, so it's legit. And so that's why for him, entrance into the blockchain space was so big, because the blockchain literally solves this issue. Once a authority prints something or prints a digital certificate, which is an NFT, everybody on earth can track that digital certificate for all time. And that's a big difference and a big improvement over existing provenance for art.
So the things you're building and the things you're doing, in theory, can be attached to and they constantly talk. This is just the beginning. Once they figure out what they can build on top of these blockchains, then the real interesting things will happen. And exactly. I've discussed it a lot with Dimitri, but you talk about title searches for houses, VINs of cars. There's so many things that could be put on the blockchain that would allow you. And if the whole world is on it, and I think about used cars and boats, and you can, if you track everything with the blockchain and you can get its service, it's a really, there's a lot of interesting things that can be done on top of it. And as it grows, you should be there to just wheel and deal, do all this.
Do the good stuff. And we really are early days. The first one, the first best use case we've had is this like NFTs, right? Monkey pictures on the blockchain, which is silly. But if you look at like a country like Estonia, which I visited a couple months ago, their whole government works on a private blockchain. But what that private blockchain facilitates is that the people themselves, so the citizens of the country, can actually track things on the blockchain. So it creates a layer of transparency for the government, which every one of those, every person watching this show realizes we need more of that. And you'll see tremendous pushback from governments who do not want their stuff on blockchains. And all you got to do is ask yourself, why wouldn't they want that? It's clear as day. So blockchains, when I say they are the great hope in this world, it is, I truly believe that. Whether or not we ever adopt it is another story, but it's there if we ever want to.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a shame that it's being overshadowed actually quite a bit.
By monkey pictures?
By the sell-off, and now, AI. And the negative news, right? FTX, the negative news has put a little bit of a damper on it. But we only have about 10 minutes left. And we struck a chord with how long have you lived in Costa Rica? Lots of questions coming from the chameleons about your experience in Costa Rica. Who would have thought that so many people may have thought about living there? Michael McRae is asking, why did you choose to live in Costa Rica? So and I may be wrong, but you were in your late 20s when you moved. Is that correct? You were living on St. Thomas.
Yeah, late 20s. I was probably like 28 when I moved there. And yeah, we were on St. Thomas.
And you moved for a lot of the reasons that the community is talking about. Like, you were looking for a place, and correct me if I'm wrong with anything, that was less expensive, cost of living, had tourism because you were in the tourism space. Those were the reasons, and Costa Rica popped up as like a good opportunity, right?
Yeah, when I moved out of when I left college after working on the Board of Trade with you, I really wanted to pursue this idea of like, is there a way I can basically retire now? Is there a way in my 20s where I saw the arc of 40 years of labor, and I was like, this is stupid. And so a lot of what you see now with like van life and the growth of these kind of like alternative lifestyles, like, bro, I got that. But there was
way ahead of the curve.
There was no books on like what to do. So I was like writing my own book. So I was like, well, let me move to the islands, because I'd seen, Brady Bunch episodes about living on the islands. And the only reason I moved to St. Thomas was because the flight was cheaper. Like, I was going to move to Hawaii, but the flight was, $600, and the flight to St. Thomas was $250.
And interestingly enough, like Cabo's the hottest place to leave from Chicago. Now, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but a lot of people I know in the Midwest, they get like directs to Cabo.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yours was St. Thomas. And I'm laughing. Yeah. I'm laughing because I can remember it almost like it was yesterday. My brother and I moved to Chicago together. He had a job on the Board of Trade. I didn't have one. I ended up getting one with Iowa Grain. But and we would take, we'd get up, and we both went to school at the University of Vermont in Burlington, which anyone from the Northeast, I mean, it's freezing. It's right up there on the Canadian border. And we moved to Chicago in the fall, right? In the fall. And we had a car and a couple duffel bags, and we moved in with a bunch of guys from our hometown in Lincoln Park. And we were all working on either the Merck, the CBOT, or like us, the Board of Trade. And we'd get up at 5 a.m. get out to the L. And it was so cold by the time we got to the L. And at the L, Lincoln Park, there would be a button you could push, and there would be a heater above your head.
And by heater, you mean a warm light bulb.
Yeah. And we lived in this apartment for it was a total flop house. You never let your kids live the way we
this
did.
This is how you know how good the house was. When I called, I was in charge of finding a place for us all to live, and I called the lady up, and she said, "Before you come and look at it, I want you to know it's a dump." I was like, "Sounds good. I'll be there in an hour."
So we're each paying probably $50 a month to live there. But I remember we get through this terrible. I mean, it was a winter. I mean, I had buddies
coldest
who still
winter
lived there,
in 30
and they're like,
years.
"This was the worst winter we ever had." So, anyways, the winter. I get in. It's a nice maybe spring day, and Adam's like, "I'm going on vacation." Oh no, I'm going to St. Thomas. I'm like, going away on vacation. This was on the L. We were going in. It's finally warm enough where we didn't have 5 jackets on. I'm like, why didn't you ask me? I would have thought about going with you. And he's like, no, I'm moving. I'm like, moving. He had decided to just move. That winter chased him off the Great Lake.
It's true.
It's a great story. A great story. But anyways, from St. Thomas, you moved to Costa Rica, and
Costa Rica was actually inexpensive when we moved there, believe it or not, and now it's super expensive. I could
that
live
was one of the
way,
questions. People are like, is it much less expensive now?
No, it's way more expensive. I could live much cheaper here in Florida or North Carolina or anywhere else other than some cities, but it's very expensive now. There are a couple things that are inexpensive still. Like you can rent places. If you hunt, you can rent houses for inexpensive. Our house is very inexpensive to rent, but that requires effort to hunt and kind of know what you're looking for and negotiate and stuff. But other than that, the general things of life, food and stuff is super expensive.
And that for years when you would come over to visit, it was like a shopping spree.
Yeah, we'd buy stuff here.
Everything is still so expensive there. Adam and Molly, his wife, would go back with duffel bags of product, and they have businesses down there, so they were you couldn't get that
literally hasn't changed. I went to the Apple store yesterday, new iPad, new phone, right? If I bought that in Costa Rica, it's an extra, I paid $1,000 here, it'd be $1,800 in Costa Rica. It's the same. It's crazy. And I talk, part of my viewpoint on government overreach and the pounding effects of government overreach on the average consumer and small business owner is from, a decade pounding my head against a wall in Costa Rica against this brutal government overreach for small businesses. It's really rough. And so importing anything into Costa Rica is ridiculous. It's time consuming. It's expensive. It's awful. So if you are moving to Costa Rica, move there to chill and relax. Do not move there to open a business.
You don't want to move there to open a business. Real estate has gotten way more expensive. You got to be careful where you buy too, because there were places we should buy here. It's on the beach, and you're like, nah, I don't think so. And sure enough, those places literally have not budged in price, right?
Yeah, they're literally the same. You could still get beachfront probably for $100,000, but would you want to live there? Yeah, probably not.
What year were we in Chicago? Was it the winter of between 93 and 4?
93, 94, yep.
Yeah. They love the story. And one of my favorite chameleons who recently returned to the chat. I have 5 brothers, none so darn smart. So nice shout out to you.
Debatable.
No, you bring it. You bring it. It's been a great week having you here. If people do want to travel to Costa Rica, can they? I know it's a small community here at the Chameleon. Can they reach out to you for?
Yeah, man. Just DM me on Twitter, Adam A. McBride on Twitter. My DMs are always open. I chat there all day. I live on Twitter, so hit me up on Twitter, Adam A. McBride, or you can search NFT archaeologists. You'll find me. Little picture of a guy with a sword.
And they have to know how to DM on Twitter, right? I'm not sure I can figure that out.
You push the thing that looks like a
because you mentioned you do have. I mean, the house is another great. I mean, you are really sharp. Another great story. The house they have there, they negotiated away from a hotelier back in the day. I mean, because in Costa Rica, and I love this story. In Costa Rica, you can't get a loan. There's no mortgage, right? There's no
very hard, yeah,
very
impossible,
hard,
basically.
So there are areas,
owner financing, baby, owner financing.
Yeah, owner financing. There are areas that are and tenants' rights are very powerful. So you guys were able to sweet talk your way into a great spot to set up your first business, and Sea Glass Spa, and it was beautiful. Yeah. And then they wanted it back or something, right? There was some negotiation. Oh no, the people you leased it from had bought the hotel, and they also purchased the hotel on, like, they put money down, but it was financed through the owner, right?
Yeah, and basically, I mean, this is the kind of thing where you realize how one conversation or one event can completely change your life. I was actually we were on a surf trip, you and I.
So the more conversations you have with random people, the better you are.
I tell you, I teach my kid all the time, like, speak to people you don't know, like, talk to strangers. It's so incredibly powerful. We were on a surf trip and we met a guy who bought this, like, beautiful property with a hotel and stuff in the Osa Peninsula of Costa Rica. And we're talking to him over beers one night or something. And he tells the story of how he bought it. And he had talked to the owner of the place, and it was whatever, it was 200 grand or whatever the thing was. And the guy's like, I don't have any money. And he's like, do you have any credit cards? And he's like, yeah. He's like, take all the money off your credit card. Pay me that. That'll be the down payment and I'll finance the rest. And hearing that story, opened it up as a possibility. I had no idea that was possible. And that's how we bought the building originally. I put literally, I think, $10,000 down. I had a Discover card at the time. And Discover card, if you remember back in the day, actually would mail you checks that you could write checks on. And I literally wrote them a Discover card check for $10,000.
It's an awesome story. And you still have that today, and it's for rent. So DM Adam, you can go see the entire story. Michael McRae says, I'm going to talk with some producers I know to push the idea of Will and Adam's show. Dream Channel. Funny you mentioned that. I mentioned because it is fun to get on and chit chat with my brother, and he always brings interesting ideas. And I said to him yesterday, maybe we should do a show just about different businesses and everything that's going on. And he's like, nah, that's not a good show. So I did discuss it with him, but I think at the end of the day, it's a bandwidth problem, right? We both have so much going on, and I do appreciate that you came on for this week and a half. And actually, we all owe the mayor a big round of applause because he emailed me the day after Dimitri announced, actually, maybe that day, that Dimitri announced we were shutting down for 2 weeks. And he's like, Will, is there any way you can keep this going? And, I can't say we did it as well as Dimitri or brought enough chameleon information, but I appreciate the fact that Jay Soloff came on, Dan Passarelli. I know, some people like to pitch other things and maybe not as, but having you the last 7 days has been super helpful, has allowed everyone to get on and chat. And it's been a good week and a half, and you have a safe trip home, my friend. Anyone can DM Adam A. McBride, Twitter. If you can tell me how to DM on Twitter, anyone in the chat, I will send out your name to the Chameleon community. That's all. No email for Adam, just DM. And And what's the
All
other
right,
thing
I'm going to tell you
you're
guys on Twitter, guys, if you see my account or any profile on the top right-hand corner, there's a couple buttons. One of those looks like a little piece of mail. Click on that. That opens DMs. There you go.
Wow. Twitter is good at making it easy. That's for sure. So how many, I mean, you would like, I don't know, a couple million followers on Twitter. How many of those DMs do you actually get?
On an average day, I probably get 10. It's not crazy. Like it just
really?
depends on what's happening. If I have something go semi-viral, viral for me is like, I don't know, 400,000 views. That's viral for me. I've had a couple with like million, but it's nothing like you would get on like a TikTok or anything like that. I produce mostly informational content. I don't do salacious type of stuff. It's all virtually all informational content. So like I had one the other day come up about a new protocol and I got, I don't know, 350,000 views. Like for me, that's a huge winner. And from that, I'll get, 20 DMs, people asking me, well, how do I do it? What do I do? Mostly stupid stuff. But sometimes, look, this is the way I encourage people to keep their DMs open, even if they're relatively large accounts, because you never know these kind of touch points or connections you're going to make in life. I mean, that's why I go to conferences. That's how I met the team members I'm with now. I mean, this is just connecting with people, new ideas, new information is how the world works. So I'm open.
It is true it's not the thing that gets me most angry today, but whenever I hear everyone, and listen, I do understand different organizations and teams are different. But when they say everyone's got to get back into the office, I'm not saying the office is in a good place to build teams and to do things, but my brother is a shining example, but I know like 30 people locally who were in businesses that they literally had to go to every day in Manhattan, which is like, 5 hours round trip, right? Who are,
crazy.
More successful, working from home or in a remote office near their home than they were going in the city, because obviously they had more energy, more stuff, and people were willing to take their emails and their texts and calls, and they were able to get it done over the pandemic, are now being forced to trudge back in, every day, right? And you're like the biggest example of someone I know, but we've done it as well with Market Chameleon. I mean, it's all been remote, right? And you can build networks and communities and relationships without, necessarily sitting next to the other guy, every workday, 9 to 5.
Look, high performers are not going to do that, right? They're just not. The vast majority of high performers don't want to be a wage slave where your time is clocked. It's ridiculous, because high performers work 70, 80 hours a week. They don't, they're not doing the high performers.
They don't want to get on a train and not work for 2.5 hours.
It's literally stupid. I mean, I understand like the vast majority of people are not high performers. It's true. Like 95% of people want to stay home and work from home because they want to just not work. Like I get
they're going to be in the office.
They're in the office not working.
Yeah, they're going to be twiddling around in the office, and
100%.
It's like you may get more out of them, and you should be able to figure out a way to monitor them, right? Maybe with NFTs, who knows? But there's a way to monitor their work performance, right, and what's going on, and that's more important than Well,
yeah. Look,
this is another story, and this is why Michael Frey's right, and you should have we should have our own show.
Yeah, top talent is going to this is going to be the perks for top talent. Top talent is not coming in the office for 8 hours a day. That's ridiculous.
We'll continue on this discussion next time Dimitri's away for 2 weeks, probably in 3 years. You and I will get back together, reunite again. This is the 14th 1,400 shows. Probably you did the first 300. So go back to those early episodes. You can see Adam interviewing Jay Soloff. I don't know, we had a bunch of guests you created. You did a lot of stuff with Dimitri, and everything we have relative to our social network came out of Adam's head, and now he's gone on to bigger and better things, which is awesome for him. And so DM him up, really make his life miserable with Costa Rica questions. And everyone, we're 4 minutes into the open. Thanks again, Adam, for everything coming on. You really made it a treat for the Chameleon community, and you have a great last day in Florida with Mom, buddy.